If I asked you to step outside right now, close your eyes, and listen to the exact moment the universe was created, um, you'd probably tell me I'm about 14 billion years too late.
Right. Yeah, you'd be a little late for that one.
Because we tend to think of the Big Bang as this, like, one-time historical event. A massive explosion that happened in the unimaginably distant past, and then it eventually cooled down.
Leaving us with the silent vacuum of space we have today.
Exactly. But that assumption is entirely based on our modern bias, right?
Yeah.
We view the creation of the universe kind of like a construction project.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, you have a builder, they gather raw materials, they bring in their tools, and after a whole lot of hammering, you get a finished building.
Right.
The creator stands totally separate from the creation, and the act of creating has this clear beginning and a definitive end.
But today, we are throwing that entire blueprint out the window. Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're looking at these incredibly fascinating excerpts from a text titled The Instrument of the Primordial Mother, which is just perfect for a curious mind.
It's a really brilliant text to unpack.
It really is. And our mission here isn't to walk you through some dusty museum exhibit of ancient lutes and flutes. We are unpacking a mind-bending paradox about the original voice of creation.
Right, we're asking what happens when the creator doesn't just play an instrument, but actually is the instrument, the musician, and the music all at once.
Which is such a wild concept. It forces this complete rewiring of how we even perceive reality. And this exploration is going to take us from ancient Sanskrit cosmology all the way to the modern physics of lasers.
Yeah, to even begin to grasp this primordial instrument, we really have to move away from that mechanical idea of creation as a construction project. We have to look at the much older concept of creation as an utterance.
An utterance, as in literally speaking or singing reality into existence.
Exactly.
I mean, if we look back at the absolute oldest layers of human imagination, we're talking pre-Vedic, pre-Sumerian, pre-dynastic Egyptian cultures. They didn't picture the world being, like, bolted together.
Yeah. No, not at all. They lived in environments completely dictated by the rhythms of nature, the wind, the breath of the seasons.
Right.
So to them, it made intuitive sense that the universe wasn't built. It was vibrated into existence.
And the mechanics of that are so crucial. Because if creation is an utterance, it doesn't require external tools like a hammer or a saw.
Right. It requires breath. And it requires resonance. So in ancient Sanskrit cosmology, they conceptualized this primordial sound as AUM.
Which, AUM has become a bit of a mainstream cliche today.
It has, yeah. But in its original context, it was considered the foundational syllable that preceded literally all other forms of existence. It is the literal hum of the universe.
Wow.
But the crucial detail that the text highlights, and this almost always gets lost today, is the vital connection between this sound and the feminine principle.
Right. The text points out that in early non-dual frameworks, and just to clarify for anyone listening, non-dual simply means not two, meaning there is zero separation between the creator and the creation.
Exactly. No separation at all.
So in that framework, this primordial sound didn't just pop out of an empty void. It arose from Shakti. And Shakti is defined as the vibratory capacity of the Divine Mother.
Yes. Her very essence is that vibratory capacity. I mean, she isn't an architect sitting at a drafting table listening to the AUM happen. Her body produces it.
Right.
And this brings us directly into the central paradox we need to unpack here. When we talk about an instrument in the conventional sense, we imagine a distinct object, like a guitar or a piano or a violin.
Something you hold.
Exactly. But when we are talking about the primordial mother, who represents the absolute ground of existence before any specific gods or goddesses were even named, suggesting she uses an instrument implies a separation that simply cannot exist in a non-dual reality.
Because, if she's holding a flute, then she is over here and the flute is over there.
Yeah.
There's a physical gap between them. You've just reintroduced the exact separation we just got rid of.
Precisely. You've broken the non-dual rule.
It's like trying to separate a dancer from the dance. You can't point to the dance as a separate object. It only exists in the movement of the dancer.
That's a great analogy.
Or think about human singers. A singer doesn't pick up a wooden box to amplify their voice. Their own physical chest cavity, their ribs, the hollow spaces in their skull. Their actual flesh and bone is the resonator.
Right. They are the instrument. So if we're scanning the cosmos looking for her instrument, we've completely misunderstood the assignment. The text warns us not to rush past this realization. She does not play an instrument. She is the ground of sound itself.
But human cognition struggles massively with abstract, infinite concepts like that, right? We cannot easily hold the formless ground of all sound in our minds. We need a face. We need a shape.
We absolutely do.
But wait, I'm hung up on that exact point. Because if the whole revelation here is that the mother is the instrument, isn't it a massive contradiction that almost every ancient civilization eventually started depicting their goddesses holding physical lutes and harps?
Yeah, it seems like a contradiction, definitely.
Like, why hand a goddess an object if the object breaks the metaphor?
Well, that is the civilizational compromise. To build a religion or a culture or even just a daily practice, humanity needed to translate the infinite into something relatable.
Ah, I see.
They needed to package the formless mother into a figure they could actually visualize and pray to. And that brings us to the refined, named faces of the divine, specifically goddess Saraswati.
Right, so Saraswati is the Hindu goddess most immediately associated with music, knowledge, and the creative arts.
Yeah.
But she's also known as Vak, which translates to the goddess of sacred speech, right?
Yes, exactly.
And unlike the infinite formless mother, Saraswati is almost always depicted holding a physical, beautifully crafted instrument.
She holds the veena, which is this highly complex, ancient stringed instrument, and the text describes the sonic quality of the veena in a very specific way.
Also,
It doesn't just sound pretty, it sounds simultaneously celestial and heartbreaking, almost like the voice is someone speaking to you across an immense, impossible distance.
oh wow, that is such a haunting visual. But the Veena isn't just a prop in these depictions, is it? It's like a piece of cognitive technology.
That's exactly what it is. The primary playing section of the veena has exactly 4 strings. And the text explains that in Vedic thought, these 4 strings are an acoustic map of how a thought actually becomes a reality. They represent the 4 levels of speech.
Okay, let's trace that physiological and spiritual journey because it explains the mechanics of manifestation.
Yeah, so the first string represents para. This is the transcendent, unmanifest level. I mean, think of a string vibrating so incredibly slowly, with such low frequency, that it doesn't even produce an audible sound wave yet. It's just pure potential.
In human terms, it's that silent, formless impulse deep in your nervous system before a thought is even born. Like the electrical charge in the air right before a lightning strike. You can feel the pressure, but nothing has happened yet.
Precisely. And then the second string represents Pushyanti. This is the visionary, pre-linguistic level, the vibration tightens. This is that flash of insight where you suddenly understand an entire concept all at once in a fraction of a second, but you don't have a single word for it yet.
Oh, I know that feeling. And then we move to the third string, Madhyama. This is the interior level. The frequency is tightening even further, becoming more defined.
Right.
This is where your brain takes that raw flash of insight and starts hastily slapping grammar and vocabulary onto it, organizing it into a structure inside your head.
Yes. And finally, the fourth string is Vaikhari. The tension is at its absolute peak. This is the level of spoken, embodied sound. The physical sound wave actually leaving your vocal cords, traveling through the air, and hitting someone else's eardrum.
Wow. So playing the Veena isn't just a musical performance. It is a literal demonstration of pulling infinite, silent potential all the way down into finite physical reality.
Exactly. Saraswati is the civilizational face because she represents this translation.
But, Saraswati is the polished civilizational version of this sound. Doesn't that imply something raw is being violently filtered out?
It does, yeah.
Because if you take the boundless potential of the para level and force it into a single spoken word at the Vaikari level, you basically kill off all the other possibilities of what that word could have been. So what does the unfiltered, untranslated version of this creation sound like?
That exact limitation, the inherent tragedy of forcing the infinite into a finite form, is why the tradition gives us another figure to balance Saraswati. We transition from the civilizational to the raw, to the goddess Parvati.
Parvati.
Right. With Parvati, there are no refined instruments. There's no polished civilization. She doesn't relate to sound through a crafted wooden object. She relates to it through tapas.
And tapas usually gets translated as spiritual practice or asceticism. But the literal root of the word means heat, right? It's the friction generated by intense physical, spiritual exertion.
Yes, it's all about that heat. And the music associated with Parvati reflects that raw friction. The text highlights a specific melody tied to her called Raga Koshik.
What does that sound like?
Well, it is not a celebratory, rhythmic tune you would play at a festival. It is a song of deep, aching yearning. And it is strictly associated with the liminal pre-dawn hour.
That pre-dawn hour is so fascinating to me. It's that pitch black time right before the sun comes up,
Yeah.
where the world is totally still. almost like it's holding its breath to see if existence will actually continue for another day.
It really feels like that, doesn't it? It's the space between the dissolution of the old day and the return of the new one. And in that liminal space, Parvati's instrument is entirely internal. We completely lose the external vena.
Wow.
Her instrument is the raw architecture of the human body. It is the lungs expanding, the diaphragm pushing, the breath scraping over the vocal cords.
So by engaging in her intense tapas,
Mm.
she strips away the external tool entirely. The boundary between the musician and the music just dissolves.
Yeah.
She doesn't play the vibration, she becomes the
She
vibration.
exactly, she becomes it. Which brings us right back to the central thesis. Parvati physically proves that the original instrument isn't held in the hands. The original instrument is the one doing the holding.
Man, that is powerful. But the text doesn't just leave this as a Hindu theological concept, does it? If we want to find the absolute oldest representation of this idea, we have to look past specific deities and examine universal sonic forms found across ancient cultures globally.
We do. When anthropologists look at the ancient Mediterranean, Mesopotamia, the Celtic world, and the indigenous traditions of the Americas, they find one constant sonic technology associated with the primordial feminine,
Which is,
the frame drum.
okay, so we're talking about a simple round hoop of wood with an animal skin stretched tightly over it.
Yes, just a very basic frame drum. And the physics of the frame drum are deeply symbolic. Unlike a modern snare drum that is enclosed on both ends, a frame drum is open on one side.
Right.
It amplifies vibration strictly through the use of hollow, empty space. So in ancient global traditions, that hollow resonant cavity represents the womb. The acoustic resonance that fills that emptiness is the literal act of creation happening in real time.
Okay, let's contrast this with the masculine principle, because I think that really highlights what the frame drum is doing. In the Hindu tradition, the masculine counterpart to this energy is Shiva.
Right, Shiva.
And Shiva also has a drum, the damru. But the damru is totally different in shape and function, right? It's a small, hourglass-shaped drum, essentially two triangles meeting at a single point in the middle.
Yeah, the damru is a highly mathematical, precise shape. When Shiva plays it, it produces a sharp, rhythmic staccato. The physics of the damru are designed to mark time. It chops eternity up into past, present, and future.
But the great frame drum of the ancient goddess traditions does not mark time. It creates space.
Exactly. The text uses this beautiful piece of imagery to explain the difference. It says the frame drum holds the vibration of the universe inside it the same way the night sky holds the stars.
Oh, that's gorgeous. Let me try to map this out so I can actually visualize how these ancient sonic concepts fit together.
Go for it.
If Shiva's hourglass drum is the metronome-like, it's the click track keeping the beat and moving time forward. But the frame drum isn't an instrument in the band at all.
No, it's not.
If the damru is the metronome, the mother's frame drum is the concert hall itself. It is the vast, expansive architecture that catches the sound waves and allows them to resonate so they can actually be heard.
That's spot on. And there's one more piece to this acoustic puzzle that the text introduces. The Indian tanpura and the concept of the drone.
Right. If you've ever listened to Indian classical music, you'll hear this continuous, unchanging background note sitting underneath the entire performance.
Yes, the drone is fundamental. While the complex melody, the raga, dances all around, exploring incredible highs and devastating lows, moving through different tempos and emotions, the drone never wavers.
It just stays constant.
Right. It does not react to the melody. It simply provides the eternal, unchanging ground of being.
So to finish our concert hall metaphor, if Shiva's drum is the metronome, and the mother's frame drum is the physical space of the hall, then the drone is the profound underlying silence that makes the music possible in the first place. You cannot have a melody without a continuous ground to play it against.
That is a brilliant synthesis. The space and the ground of being must precede the melody. But, this naturally leads us to a critical pivot.
Okay.
We've been exploring goddess traditions, frame drums, and the physics of the vina. But the text makes a massive leap from ancient history straight into modern physics to explain why this matters to the listener right now.
Right. It uses the concept of coherence. Now, in everyday conversation, if I say someone is being coherent, it just means their argument makes logical sense. But in physics, coherence describes a very specific, measurable state of energy.
Yeah, in physics, coherence describes a state where multiple waveforms are perfectly in phase with one another. The crests and troughs of the waves match up exactly. Instead of crashing into each other and causing destructive interference where they basically cancel each other out, they reinforce each other. They move in perfect harmony, creating a state of immense power and clarity.
And the text gives us the ultimate real-world example of this, right?
Yeah.
The difference between a standard scattered light bulb and a laser beam.
Yes. Think about the physics of a standard light bulb in your living room. It is a non-coherent light source. The photons are scattering in 1,000 different directions, bouncing off walls, dissipating their energy out into space.
It provides light, yeah, but it lacks focus.
Exactly. A laser, however, is a coherent light source. Every single photon is oscillating together, perfectly aligned in the exact same direction. And because of that alignment, the energy doesn't dissipate. A laser can cut through solid steel.
Wow. And the text argues that the mother's instrument, that primordial AUM vibration, produces this exact state of physical and spiritual coherence.
It does.
It is what existence sounds like when the individual personal self and the infinite universal whole are completely in phase. When you realize that you and the universe aren't two separate things crashing into each other, but are perfectly aligned.
Which brings us to the most radical, mind-bending claim in the entire deep dive.
Lay it on us.
The text insists that the original sound, that ancient utterance of creation, wasn't a one-time event that faded away billions of years ago. It is still sounding right now.
Wait, really? It never stopped?
It never stopped. The coherence of the universe, that pure aligned laser frequency, is continuous. The only reason we don't hear it is because of the sheer volume of our own fragmentation.
Because we live our lives like scattered light bulbs.
Mm.
We are entirely caught up in the vicari, right? The noisy, spoken, superficial surface level of existence.
Yeah, we are constantly generating destructive interference through our anxieties or conflicting desires or constant need to separate ourselves from the world around us, and in doing so, we completely drown out the para.
The deep, silent drone that is humming right beneath our feet. I mean, think about your average Tuesday. You're pulled in 100 different directions by emails, obligations, social media, stress.
Oh yeah, it's nonstop.
Your energy is scattering everywhere, canceling itself out.
Yeah.
You're exhausted, but you haven't actually moved forward. And all the while, you are completely unaware that the most powerful, coherent frequency of reality is literally vibrating through your own chest cavity. You don't need to go out and build a laser from scratch. You just have to stop scattering the light.
The text offers this profound reassurance, too. Coherence isn't some impossible, distant state you have to achieve through decades of agonizing meditation. It is the baseline reality.
Right.
The question isn't whether the original sound is playing. The question is whether we can quiet the noise of our defended, separate selves long enough to feel the resonance that we are already made of.
We started this deep dive by imagining the universe as a construction site, with a creator standing totally separate from the bricks and mortar. But we've discovered that reality is actually an unbroken utterance, a continuous song where the singer, the breath, the vocal cords, and the melody are all one singular event.
Yeah, and you, listening to this right now, are not standing outside the music observing it. You are made of it.
You are the resonant chamber for the universe to play itself, which leaves us with a strange and beautiful paradox to think about today. We spent this entire time talking about the sound of creation, the eternal drone, the coherent hum of the universe.
Right.
But if reality is one continuous, unbroken utterance, it forces us to ask a completely new question about the nature of silence. When you finally log off, turn off your phone, and sit in what you think is total quiet, are you actually experiencing the absence of sound?
Or are you just finally quieting your own scattered noise enough to realize you've been the instrument all along?
You keep that in mind next time you find a moment of stillness. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll catch you next time.